and you're the organizer, at some point you have to be like, all right, we're in day 2, we're running out of everything. Like, go get stuff. Crazy. Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL. I can't say marathon matchup show because that'll be Friday, but this is the Thanksgiving matchup show, breaking down all 3 games for Thanksgiving Day. Greatest time of year for football, for DFS, and we're here for it, baby. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughran_D, LOUGHY_D on the Twitters, joined by Matt Savoca at Draftaholic, man. Bills, Lions, 54.5 point total. I said to Ben yesterday, and I'm not saying it hasn't happened this year, I don't remember another game that had a 54.5 point total. Does one of them come to mind?
Not immediately, not right off the top of my head. I feel like we had one mid-season last year, but man, good to be here. Yes, Larry C, we will have a marathon matchup show Friday, but we're talking the Thanksgiving slate. So thrilled to do it. Wednesday before Thanksgiving, one of the biggest bar days of the year, one of the biggest drinking days of the year. I'm excited. Maybe you're starting a little bit early as you get going here. Maybe you're already where you're going to be for tomorrow's holiday, but wherever you are in the world, thrilled you're here listening or watching us. Let's dig into this one. And as you said, we've got some barn burners and a really good stack to start things off.
No doubt. And yeah, last year we had one, but this year I don't remember one. I don't remember one that high. It's one of the biggest drinking days of the year. One of the biggest, cops out patrolling, DUI checkpoint days.
Just take a cab home. Just drink your face off and take a cab home.
Yeah. Uber around my way. We don't do cabs around here, but yes, got your point. Yeah. I don't think I could get a cab where I live, to be completely honest with you.
I group them all. Maybe it's my New York showing. I group all of Uber, Lyft, cab into one category for me, but you're absolutely right.
But no, I'm saying like you're in, what are you in, Manhattan?
Yeah. Not today, but yes, that's where I live.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice background, by the way. So do you go, so do you Uber, Lyft, cab? What do you do? Cab? What do you normally do if you're trying to get somewhere? Like, do you have a car?
I do not have a car. There are some people who live in the borough that have a car.
But you
people
don't need
in the outer boroughs, definitely. I know how to drive. Yes.
No, I said you don't need to drive.
I don't need to drive. Yes. But ultimately it's about down to price, man. It used to be that a couple years ago, Uber, Lyft were significantly cheaper almost all the time. Now, you basically have to use the odd shopper method, but for transportation modes. So that's what you do. You hop on 2 or 3 apps, you see which one's cheaper, you press go. And here's a little life pro tip. If you're with a group, sometimes different people's apps will show different prices for the same exact service. If you're in a major city, you should try that next time.
Interesting. Okay. What was I going to say? I thought it was, I know what I was going to say. I get off track easily these days, Matt. The Wednesday night going into Thanksgiving being the biggest drinking day of the year, I've made the mistake many times. I won't make it this year. I think it's a mistake to go out and get hammered on Wednesday night. You wake up, you're wildly hungover, okay? Then you have to spend time with family. So, and don't get me wrong, I love seeing, I'm going to my brother-in-law's house and we're going to have a nice day. But then you had to spend time with family. So either the what it comes down to now is just go hair of the dog. And by hair of the dog, I'm not talking 1 beer and a shot. I mean, you just have to fully commit, right?
Get going.
Because otherwise if you do that wrong, you just get deadly tired and you can't stay awake. I actually did it the other year where I drank too much with the neighbors and the friends on Wednesday. And then right after dinner, mind you, gorging myself, just the massive plate right after dinner on Thanksgiving, I'm falling asleep on my brother-in-law's couch. And that's just no way to live life, because I got
two mild takes on this part because I kind of fully agree with you. So 2 things. One, this is totally this Wednesday night drinking is totally perpetuated by the people who just got out of high school or are currently in college or college age because they're so anxious to come back home, get back to their old life. And so 18, 19, 20, 20, even 21, early 20s. I totally get why Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, everybody's back home is why this is perpetuated. But you're exactly right. And that's why everyone says turkey makes you fall asleep. No, you're just exhausted from drinking for the last 36 hours. And that's why everyone right after the turkey is passing out.
Exactly. It's not the tryptophan or whatever they say.
No.
I hear you. But yeah, I'm gonna be smart. See, but like Atomic Bomb Mother said in chat, I generally stay hammered from Wednesday night through Saturday. I'm telling you, if you're going to do it, I'm not suggesting this. What I'm saying is just my advice. If you're going to do it, you kind of have to do it that way, Matt. You kind of have to just keep the momentum going through Thanksgiving, or it will be a regretful experience. I don't think I'm talking out of turn.
No, you're not. Just pace yourself. These are things that our marathon matchups viewers, our longtime viewers, are more prepared than anyone to sustain themselves through substance intake for long periods of time. In a way, we've trained them, Laffy. So this is what it's all come down to. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna have a good Thanksgiving, and I'm gonna stay on the up and up. I'm not gonna start drinking until noon tomorrow, and we'll be good. So anyway, let's get into this. 3 games. Appreciate all you guys being with us as always. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below if you're listening after the fact. If you're listening on podcast form, you know how it goes. Leave a rating, a review, all that stuff. Subscribe to the podcast. It helps us greatly. Dude, I got my Christmas lights up already outside, so we're in business. I mean, I'm making excellent progress this year. That
is prompt, my friend.
Yeah.
Wow.
My wife would want, if I allowed it, she'd put them up in September. Like, you can't, you're not putting this shit up before Halloween. I can't have pumpkins outside with Christmas lights.
So my fiance feels the same way as you. She doesn't really want to do anything until Thanksgiving, and then it's on. But I feel like early November you can get prepped because I don't know, you want to live your life and then you want to be ready once the true holiday season is here.
It's tough because you only get them up for a month. Dude, my dad at one point was just leaving the Christmas tree up year round, and I'm putting one up the other day, and you had to fluff it out because it's a fake one. And I looked up, I was like, I understand now, Dad. I get it. That shit's not coming back down. Look, we got a new tree, fake tree, of course. Wife hates the new ones, and it was a horrible thing that happened the town over from me, where I won't get into it, but a Christmas tree, a real Christmas tree, you see where I'm going.
Yes.
And I read the directions, and it's like fluff time, 30 to 120 minutes. And I look at her, and I sat down with a glass of Jack Daniels, and I was like, okay, you get started. I'll be there in a second. But let's talk football, Matt.
You usually get paid a lot of money to fluff for 30 to 120. I was going to say,
I'm no fluffer, Matt. I'm no fluffer.
It was just there. It was like a softball toss. You had to at least try to hit one.
You know what? When I read that on the directions, I thought the same thing. But yeah, at this point, I always look at him, I was like, what are you doing, Dad? What are you doing? And he's like, yeah, now I'm like, I get it. All right, let's talk some football. Buffalo at Detroit. 10-point favorites. I did a show yesterday. I said I wouldn't be surprised if this moved back to 10 at all. Josh Allen has shed the sleeve on his throwing arm, so that's nice to see. Limited in practice, but it's a short week. What do you expect? He's going to play. He's perfectly fine. 54.5-point total, though. Boy, has this one come up considerably. The biggest, most important primary factor of this slate, Matt, I'm glad we're starting with this game, because Ben and I did the first look show where we're going position by position, and we have to go, okay, there's this guy, there's Mac Joe, there's Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins against him. Josh Allen, the preeminent quarterback on this slate, hands down. I'd less rather talk about whether or not we play him and how we plan on playing him and what alternatives there are, maybe with a stack or a game stack and doing things different, because we're not helping anybody, doing anybody favors by being like, hey, what do you think of Josh Allen this week and the Bills offense?
Right, because everyone knows they're good. Everyone knows that in general, Detroit's defense is considered bad. But let's talk about some micro trends here. Could you call Detroit one of the hottest teams in the NFC?
No.
It's been a weird up and down. Okay, fine.
No. Hold on, finish your thought. I thought you were actually asking me. I didn't know you were going to keep going. Keep going.
No, I like that you answered it genuinely. But here's what I see. I see a team that over the last few weeks has started to quietly figure things out. 3 wins in a row. I get it. 15-9 is not impressive. 31-30 over Chicago isn't that impressive. But 31-18, relatively commanding win over a decent New York Giants team. And now they're 4-6. They're just not a terrible team anymore. And they're not even a terrible defense. I will say this, their lines are playing well. The Lions have lines that are playing well, offensive line and defensive line. Now, the other thing I want to say is that the Bills have moved to a more neutral game script. In the first 9 weeks of the season, they were the highest team in terms of pass rank over expectation. And now we saw over the last 2 weeks a -5% pass rate under expectation. So right at league average, but still not at a rate that we usually expect from the Bills. Now, maybe like you said, because that injury is improving to Josh Allen, we get a little bit of a pass improvement. And, let's not get it twisted. They're still number one by far on our top stacks tool. But there are ways that this fails, even with the Bills succeeding, including this running game, where I think Devin Singletary is a very appealing piece at 5,700 on DraftKings.
Okay. All very fair points. Here's what I'll say. I do think the Bills should be 10. I bet them at 9.5. I do think they should be big favorites here. It is a short week. They are on the road, but they have not left Detroit. They played at Ford Field. I think it's still Ford Field. Either way, Dome in Detroit, and they will play there 4 days later. If you look at this team that we're talking about in Detroit, I'm a fan, by the way. Like, I root for teams that have performed poorly over the years. I want Detroit to not this game, but generally speaking, I like seeing Detroit play good football. And, they are on a little bit of a run. I'd say they're an upstart team. They still haven't even got Jameson Williams yet, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they have not exactly faced anybody that strikes the fear of God into you. All right. Let's point one thing out, though. Aiden Hutchinson's a beast. Yo, when he drops back in the coverage.
That interception was beautiful.
And I think he had 2 against Rodgers as well. I think he had 2 against. He's awesome. He's phenomenal.
Unteachable instincts, right?
Yeah. And he can change the look of a game. There's no doubt about that. But I don't want to overlook the fact that they beat the Packers, who threw, Rodgers threw 2 goal line interceptions. That team stinks, right? We just saw them come out flat again and get smoked again after, snap. They've lost 6 of their last 7 games. Okay. The Giants, come on. The facade that we saw with the Giants through the first, they're fine. They're impressive for what they have to work with. They're not a very good football team. Right. And then the Lions, they beat the Lions on a nice, pick 6 that Justin Fields threw. They still gave up 30 points in that game, though. Every time they faced a good offense, this is what I'm getting at. Every time the Lions have faced a good offense, and yes, I do think they've made some improvements. I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth. You can't be as bad as you were through the first few weeks, okay? You can't give up 40 points per game all year. But every time they faced a good offense, they have not been even remotely competent. I like this from a shootout perspective, but I love the Bills this week. I think Josh Allen is getting healthier. If that's not an issue anymore and it's more of, a rear view mirror thing, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis is cheap. Dawson Knox coming off his best game of the season. I'll even sprinkle some Isaiah McKenzie in there. You can look at Devin Singletary. Hell, if you want to go to the bottom of the barrel because there's nothing else there, even James Cook saw 13 opportunities last game. All I'm saying here is, while I like what the Lions have done recently, and I love that they've got rattled off 3 straight wins, I'm not saying it's a smokescreen. I'm saying the Buffalo Bills still have a distinct advantage, in my opinion, from an offensive perspective.
Yeah, you really do. I think you broke that down really, really well. And ultimately, I'm looking at Stephon Diggs as the premier wide receiver on this slate, the one I want to get to if I at all can in terms of salary. And then in terms of comparing their production or their potential ceiling in a tournament situation to their salary-based expectations, I could make an argument that Gabe Davis might be the second best value on the slate in terms of that outlook.
Yeah.
I really, really like him and his salary this week. And then on the tight end side, I like Dawson Knox as well. It is not a fantastic tight end slate. You do have the likes of Schultz and Hawkinson. After that, it gets real wishy-washy. I think you just attach yourself to Josh Allen. You attach yourself to a team that has such a high projected total, and you attach yourself to a game where the Lions, even in a possible losing effort, I might actually take them against the spread if this spread gets as big as it does, because they have maintained a some pretty close games, even when giving up those huge performances to strong offenses. Like you mentioned, 38 points to the Eagles. They gave up 27 points to the Carson Wentz led Washington Commanders, 28 points to Minnesota, 48 points against the Seattle Seahawks. They gave up 29 to the Patriots, 31 to Tua. So I get your point. This team gives up a ton of points. So we cannot go away from this Buffalo Bills team entirely unless you're getting hyper contrarian. But I do want to say that their offense's ability to come back and keep things close might lead me to some run back options as well.
Oh, no doubt. And yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted the Bills inside of 10. I thought it would move back to 10. It did move back to 10. There was some buyback there. I don't think it moves past 10. But yeah, if it did, if I didn't have this bet already, I would definitely look at the Lions. Okay, two things. One, Stephen Leibowitz, good to see you, brother. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Said that Dawson Knox, after one good game, is chasing. On any other slate, I would agree with you. Look at the rest of the tight ends on this slate, though. I mean, it's Dawson Knox, it's Hunter Henry, it's Jonnu Smith, it's 5K or so, whatever, TJ Hawkinson. There's not a lot there. There's not a lot there. There's not Brock Wright. Who you
got? Dalton Schultz.
Schultz. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Schultz is another fine one in that same range as Knox. But it's not like you have an embarrassment of riches to choose from here. On the Lions side, I'm with you. I'm telling you right now, though, I'm having a tough time with one aspect of this game. I'm looking at the Bills and I look at the Lions and I go, what is one way that the Lions could really combat this Bills high octane approach? The answer, and the problem within this answer, is that he hasn't been getting a lot of opportunities lately since he returned from an injury. The answer is DeAndre Swift, because no matter how amazing Jamal Williams has been, the guy's got a nose for the end zone like nobody else. He leads the league in goal line carries with 19. No one else has more than 15. He has multiple touchdowns in half of his 10 games this year. Amazing. He's not the type of guy, though, that keeps pace with a high-scoring offense, right? He averages a little more than 4 yards per attempt. He's not explosive. He's not going to rattle off massive plays. The guy to really do that is DeAndre Swift, but we haven't seen Dan Campbell give him the work. I'm very curious to see if maybe this ends up being a game where DeAndre Swift gets a little bit more opportunity, because he could be a true difference maker in a spot like this.
That's interesting. Now, the Bills defense is good, really good, above average, but they are not clearly number one or even top three in the league in most metrics anymore. They have too many injuries that have stacked up at this point, and both their run defense and their pass defense have slunk into the 5 to 10 range if you look at most metrics. So I do think they are a little bit more exploitable than they have been in previous weeks and years. I'd love to see DeAndre Swift, especially at a fairly middling salary on both DraftKings and FanDuel, get more into the action. His expected fantasy points, again, only in the games he's played over the last 6 weeks, 8.8 fantasy points expected. That's 8th among running backs just on this Thanksgiving slate. Pretty unimpressive, but puts him in the you can play him range in terms of opportunity value versus salary. The explosiveness and the possible efficiency is what kind of leads me to him being an interesting tournament option. I still think you got to give some love to Jamal Williams, because again, in that same expected fantasy points metric, he's actually not outperforming his expectations more than you might think with all those touchdowns. Just 1.5 fantasy points above expectation. That's good, not great, but it's what it's really showing you is that the way he's getting his opportunities, where and when he's getting his opportunities, are incredibly valuable. He has the same exact expected fantasy points per game over the last 6 weeks as Jared Goff.
Yeah. Surprising.
That really shocked me as I was going into this, because Goff obviously plays the quarterback position. Our median projection ahead of salary-based expectation. Not unplayable in what could be a shootout here.
Definitely not.
But Jamal Williams is like the unsexiest multi-touchdown scorer ever, because I never want to go to him because I feel like I'm point chasing. It's actually not as bad as I thought.
Yeah. No. I hear you. What I'm saying about Williams, though, is he's not the type of guy that if Buffalo rattles off a couple quick touchdowns, that's going to get you back into it. He's the type of guy that's going to seal the deal once you get inside the 10. Okay. But he's just, I won't say he's a plotter, but he's definitely not electric in that sense. He's not a guy that breaks a game open. So it will be interesting. But I want, and I changed my mind a little bit throughout the last 24 hours when I was starting to make some lineups. I think I will have a little bit of DeAndre Swift here. Ben put it perfectly. It's always the unsuspecting Lions player that blows up a Thanksgiving slate before it even starts. Maybe it'll be DeAndre Swift. I don't want a lot. I can't imagine he's going. What's his ownership at right now?
Swift looks like he's going to be like 10 or 11% owned
on a 3-game slate. Yeah. At 5,600, I'll take a couple shots at a guy that we've seen house touchdowns from 50 yards out twice in a game. I'll take a few shots at that.
That's really, I actually like that when you look at it from a pure game theory perspective, because
that's
right
all
now,
it is.
Yeah. We know what the player can do when healthy, but you talk about a 300 in salary discount, and Jamal Williams currently expected to take about double the expected ownership right now. Is he really twice as likely to succeed as Swift? Honestly, I think that's pushing it.
Yeah, I do too, because you need touchdowns with Jamal Williams. You absolutely need touchdowns. Jamal Williams has had games where he's had multiple touchdowns and still not reached 20 fantasy points. I think I could be wrong. No, you know what? Yeah. Like against Philly, 2 touchdowns, 16 fantasy points. He truly needs the multiple scores to get there, because he has 100-yard game this year. Outside of that, you're living in that like 60, 70 rushing yard performance. And he hasn't been targeted in 3 straight games.
That's not great. That's a huge point. So the comeback effort will not be done through Jamal Williams. It will be the cleanup effort if they get some sort of alternative game script.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sell anyone on Swift. I'm just saying that I don't want to ignore him entirely on a 3-game slate. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to ignore this guy entirely on a 3-game slate when we know that he's extremely explosive. What do you want to do in the passing game?
I think this is a place where I'm definitely going to take shots, especially in tournaments. Talk about trying to find that no-name Lions player. We got obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of salary-based expectations in terms of projection, but we have the same situation for Khalif Raymond. Even Tom Kennedy, if you need a 3K player, looks like someone who may be able to be viable for us, because DJ Chark may not play. If he does, we don't like him at all. And I don't think we're going to see Jamison Williams yet. I don't know if we can trust any of these tight ends. So Amon-Ra, Khalif Raymond, absolutely going to be taking shots there. And we don't even really have a ton of tertiary options right now. I guess Brock Wright is someone I'll go to. Kennedy, as we mentioned, but that's a player who has had 7 total opportunities over the last 3 weeks. We had Jason Kabinda get 2 opportunities last week. We had some we would have to scrape the bottom of the barrel after this. That's pretty much it here. Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown clearly ahead of everyone else.
Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown, very fair price point, right? I think, yeah. It's not, you laid it out nicely. There's just not, I'm kind of at a loss of words, because when you're breaking down 3-game slates, you kind of have to hit on everything. There certainly is not a lot there once you get past those guys. DJ Chark was hardly involved last week. Now he's on a short week here. It's going to be a very interesting setup to see how this team or what the target distribution looks like. We'll see. And you got Tre'Davious White back too.
Not 100%, but it looks like there's a good chance he'll be back. We also saw Justin Jackson last week get 16%.
Oh, that's weird. He's not. I'm sorry. He's not on the. That's odd because he's not on the injury report that I was looking at. Is he not? Is he not confirmed playing?
Trey White.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought I heard that there was a chance he wouldn't play, and then Chat brought it up again.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you could. I'm looking at it now. Yeah. Okay. I think
Bill's
you're right.
juggling DBs, taking Trey White's return a day at a time.
Yep. You're right. Okay. Go ahead.
So I say 60%, just off the top of my head, 60% chance he plays. I just wanted to add that Justin Jackson surprisingly saw the most opportunity share that he had seen all season last week. 16% of the team's total opportunities. That was right up there with Amon-Ra St. Brown. The game script was a very specific game script and not one that they'll likely find themselves in this week, but it is notable, especially when we're talking about taking chances on DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift was still fourth on the opportunity totem pole, making him viable for sure.
Let's talk about the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys here. Before we, and let me just say, if we didn't cover this closely enough, I think pretty much everybody for Buffalo is viable here. I really
Singletary for sure.
Yeah. McKenzie, I think, is fine at his price. I have no problem triple stacking Buffalo on a slate like this whatsoever. I have no problem double stacking with Singletary in a lineup, like double stack pass catchers plus Singletary and no issues with that at all. I don't know about you, but I don't think we should be limiting ourselves to just like traditional main slate type of lineup builds at all on a slate like this.
Really glad you mentioned it. I don't really need to add much. You can get weird by getting multiple Buffalo Bills on this 3-game slate for sure.
All right. Hey, PrizePicks, baby. Matt, did you know that PrizePicks came to us and said, you guys have really good tools and you guys have all this amazing stuff and we've got an amazing platform and we would like to collab and we would like to give out $100 first match deposit bonus to everyone that signs up if you guys give out a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And heads exploded, just blood everywhere. But the people who survived looked and said, this is a great idea. We're going to do it. Did you know that?
I didn't know about the blood everywhere part, but the other parts I had heard rumor of, and this is exciting. This is incredibly exciting.
It certainly is. And I'm not sure that's how it went down, but I do know that if you use the link in the description or the one in chat that Tyler can throw in there right now, you're not only getting $100 first match deposit bonus, but you're also getting a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. All of the tools on our site, right? The lineup generator, ownership projections, player projections, the top stack tool, the boom bust tool, everything for not just football, but every sport we have. Not Fantasy Cruncher. We don't own Fantasy Cruncher. We just host it, but you can get the add-on as well. And PrizePicks is sick. The format is cool, especially if you're a non-legal betting state. You're looking to scratch that itch. Our boy Eric Lindquist killing it with the PrizePicks picks in the premium Discord lately. Just getting things done. All you're doing is building lineups. Traditional book may call them a parlay with props. Over, under, no juice on either side though. Matt and I have talked about this a million times with like touchdown props where you can take, where it might be, because you can't do over one touchdown. It's always got to be a half a touchdown, right? It always has to be the hook. And you'll get like Derrick Henry or whatever over half a touchdown with no juice. Minus 250 at any other book. And if you hit 5 of 5, you're 10xing. If you hit 4 of 5, unlike a traditional sports book, you're still 2xing. You still get money back on a 3x. And you can mix a bunch of sports. You want to play football and mix it with hockey or basketball or college football, you can put them all into the same lineup, the same parlay. Check it out. PrizePicks, link in the description, link in chat. Free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, and up to $100 first match deposit bonus. Straight no-brainer here, and an awesome site to play on if it's available in your state. All right. Talk about the Dallas Cowboys hosting the New York Giants. I mentioned this to Ben yesterday, but did you know, because the Dallas Cowboys always play a home game on Thanksgiving. They used to crush on Thanksgiving. Did you know since 2010, so the last 12 games, they're 4-8 on Thanksgiving, of course, all at home, with a negative or minus 88 point differential. Isn't that something? I'm not saying to take anything away from it, Matt. I'm just saying that's crazy.
I want to look at the starting quarterbacks for those Cowboys teams, because if I had to guess, they were Romo-less for a bunch of them. because this is about the time of year where his back would flare up. In fact, I remember, I think it was a Thanksgiving day where he came back after a long absence. I might be getting this somewhat wrong. Thanksgiving Day, and then he hurt his back immediately upon entering the game. I might be getting this a little bit conflated, but I want to see this.
Smoked.
They have, unless they're playing Washington, of course. I actually do think they have a great chance in this game. And of course, every year is different. Every version of the Dallas Cowboys team is different. We all know these caveats. But ultimately, I do think this Giants team got exposed last week by a mediocre Detroit team, and they kind of got stomped. I don't know what's going on with Saquon Barkley. The only thing holding back Dallas right now are two things. One, the injury to Micah Parsons really, really matters for the defense because he's incredible. And two, if this team continues to stay anywhere near irrational with Ezekiel Elliott, they need to keep feeding Tony Pollard the ball.
Yes, they do.
Just amazing last week.
In 2020, they faced Washington. They lost 41-16. That was an Andy Dalton game, but it was also an Alex Smith game. So I don't want to, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Man. I just think it's a funny, like, I'm not saying that from a DFS perspective, it makes a big difference.
Sure.
Pollard was incredible last week, which makes me want to go to more Ezekiel Elliott, to be completely honest with you. I'll get into that in a second. I mentioned to Ben, he said he thinks Pollard's going to be the highest owned player on this slate. I said I think it was going to be Stephon Diggs. Right now, we have Diggs at 50%. We have Pollard at 25%. Have to imagine Pollard comes up from 25%, but I am not shocked that Stephon Diggs is 50%. When it comes to New York, you're talking about Saquon Barkley, who's 37% right now. I get it. It's going to be tough to fit him into some lineups because when you have Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got some good wide receivers up there, and a couple of them in what should be a shootout in the dome. So I get Saquon Barkley. It's more of a roster construction thing. And then the next closest Giant on a 3-game slate is 5K Darius Slayton. I have no issues with Slayton. You have no Wan'Dale Robinson. We don't even know if Richie James is going to play. You're talking about Isaiah Hodgins and at tight end, Lawrence Cager. And I mean, because Bellinger's already been ruled out. This is ugly, man. This is ugly once you get past Barkley.
And teams are clearly selling out to do whatever they can to stop Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's the only thing you need to worry about if you're a defensive coordinator facing the Giants at this point. I guess Daniel Jones can run a little bit, but this offense, no, they do not have multi-dimensionality in the ways that great offenses do. And Saquon was just straight up bad, like really, really bad last week. Is he hurt? I don't know, but 35 total yards on 20 total opportunities is absolutely egregious, as you would expect. Over 4 fantasy points below expectations. I still think he's a pay up to be contrarian option, but right now our latest run of projections have him well below salary-based expectations, and we have his ownership still with about a third of lineups, including him. Honestly, I think I want to take my chances on Saquon Barkley when I'm talking about the 1-game showdown version of this matchup. In the 3-game slate, I'm going to be like 15% below the ownership expected in terms of my lineups.
I get it. It's tough to play him. And honestly, you're 10-point dogs here. And no, Chris, I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater at all. He said Laffy equals hater. I'm just saying, on the world's biggest stage on Thanksgiving, playing at home every year, it's odd that you've lost 8 of your last 12 games. That's all. I mean, kind of weird. Like, lost outright by a wide margin in many of them. That's all. But it doesn't mean the Giants, and I'm not taking the Giants money line here. Shit, I took the Lions money line against the Giants last week. I don't like Dallas -10 though. I don't want to lay double digits. I think like only one double-digit favorite has covered all year.
Wow. So parity in the NFL remains incredibly high.
Even Baltimore last week, what was that, 13-3 or something?
We'll get into that team. They looked a mess.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about them on Friday. I think only one double-digit favorite covered all year. I believe it was Buffalo against the Steelers in that absolute rout. So Yeah. I mean, 10 points in a divisional game is a lot of points. I like Slayton here. I think Slayton's a totally reasonable play, to be completely honest with you. I definitely worry that this is the type of spot that could get them into trouble if you can't protect Daniel Jones. We saw it earlier this year when these two teams met. It's just a lot of pressure and then a good secondary. It's going to be rough. Dallas right now is ranked number 1 in Football Outsiders adjusted sack rate, and they're number 2 in pass defense DVOA. That's a recipe for disaster if you're the Giants. But I'd go, Slayton. Barkley's fine, not a priority. And then you honestly might have to just look at like minimum salary Hodgins in some of these lineups where you're paying up everywhere else. Lawrence Cager to me is not exciting because I'd rather just go to Dawson Knox or Dalton Schultz at what is it, like $1,000 upgrade, something like that. It's ugly. It's very ugly down here.
If you're going with Lawrence Cager, you're basically saying I would like to pay 2.7K for a 0 instead of just 0 for a 0. But
he played almost 80% of snaps last week is why I meant. That's the only reason I mentioned it, because
I'm being a little bit facetious here. You can definitely play him. He actually has a projection slight ahead of salary-based expectation because his salary is 2.7K. If you need to get to an option at that low of a salary, he is absolutely playable because of his snap share and his route participation rate over the last 2 weeks. I still think Slayton is the player in the receiving core I would most like to get to, although we have him as a little bit overpriced. His ownership's still just a little bit over 10%, making him a pretty contrarian option on this 3-gamer. And I like him a whole lot better than the Hodgins and the Richie Jameses of the world here. Maybe we even go to Kenny Golladay if he's able to get on the field. I mean, this is just a gross situation. And honestly, the only thing I'll say is I'll be more inclined to boost these players in the optimizer if Micah Parsons is trending towards out, because I can't trust those metrics for the Dallas Cowboys defensively if Parsons is not 100%.
For sure. That's a great point. Worth paying attention to, no doubt about it. Bill Miner said that the Niners covered on Monday. They were -10. Great call, Bill. I missed that. I had him at -8.5, so I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, once the Kyler news came out, that was the smash spot of the year. Honestly, there was no way they weren't gonna win that game. They even went and practiced all week in Colorado Springs, which is home to the second highest altitude stadium in the country. So, how about Matt Kajeska? What's that?
Solid move.
Yeah. How about Matt Kajeska? I asked him, what's the highest altitude? He's like, Laramie, Wyoming. It's like, what's the second? He goes, Colorado Springs. He knew.
He knows the altitudes just like he knows his college players.
Well, if you and I did college, we were like the college. I think we'd probably know that because it's something you have to consider. But I just found it funny because I had no idea. I don't really pay attention to that stuff from a college perspective. But yeah, he knew right away.
That's awesome.
And hey, hit that. We got almost 500. We got almost 450 people watching with us today. Appreciate you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. This is a fun time to do this. If you join late, Matt and I will be doing the marathon matchup show for Sunday slate on Friday. We're not going to leave you hanging here, but we're covering everything for Thanksgiving. Now, there's got to be 18 of you that can get us to 100 likes, though. I think so. I think there's 18 people out there that can help make this happen. CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Tony Pollard, Zeke. Zeke's at 17% right now. Maybe I'm just crazy going to some of these lesser owned guys in a split backfield, but there's something intriguing to me about the notion that like last week it was 2 receiving touchdowns for Pollard. Zeke still saw 4 goal line opportunities, kind of like Jamal Williams is what he's become, except they're 10-point favorites and not 10-point dogs. So interesting spot there in this backfield.
If you took Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott and you got the usage that you got last week against the Minnesota Vikings for the Dallas Cowboys, you would have gotten 54.5% of the team's total opportunities between those 2 players. Wow. I totally get on a 3-game slate, if you want to capture that much of the Dallas Cowboys total targets and rushes, that's a great way to play this. I mean, obviously they don't have the same implied total as a team like the Bills, but we're still talking about 27.5 as a team total, a clear 1B tier before you get to the rest of the teams on this Thanksgiving slate. And that's a whole lot of touches expected for those two players. It's rare that I say go for two running backs. They usually cannibalize each other. And on a main slate, we'd never be talking about something like this. But if the Giants are going to be a mediocre team, they're only a +1 point differential team, and their defense is nothing that we're scared about. Right now, we have them ranked 23rd in the NFL. I think this is totally viable. Obviously, like Pollard a little bit better. We actually have him number 1 in terms of median projection. But Pollard and Elliott are viable, and they are viable together.
Agreed. Yeah, I think you definitely could do that. And I would imagine that won't be too popular of a position. That's a great call, though. You know, you're looking at the opportunities that they ate up last week. Of course, 40-3, but you're double-digit favorites again. So, you know, if the game plays out the way that it's projected to, then things are going to get very interesting. Ezekiel Elliott, though, you know, not really involved much in the passing game anymore, but still 15 carries last game. Tony Pollard had 15 carries last game. That's 30 between the two of them. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. I like that. And I'll go back to CeeDee Lamb. No issues with that. I like Dalton Schultz. Do you want any, because and we don't need to talk about the Cowboys defense. If you can fit the Cowboys defense, play the Cowboys defense. Simple as that. But CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, both of those guys, they're going to get ownership. They should. But what about guys like Gallup and Brown?
Look, if you think this game script goes anywhere near like it did last week, they're essentially unplayable because you're talking about 3, maybe 4 targets at the most. Part of that is Tony Pollard keeps gobbling up more and more of a target share here. He had a season high 20% target share last week. Again, you could say part of that is game script. You could say part of that is the offense doing what it should do because they're getting it to one of their most dynamic playmakers. Lamb, I think, could easily get back up to a 25% target share. He's absolutely good to go at his salary. Schultz and Gallup are in the things could go awry to the point where they might end up being unplayable if game script doesn't go their way. Do I think they have 8 target ceilings? I do. I don't think double digits are in either of their range of outcomes. I do actually think that Michael Gallup's salary is a little high at $4,600. If I had to choose between the two, I would choose Dalton Schultz because it is a salary discount and we might actually see more volume for him straight up. But I'm a little nervous here, even though I like the situation for the passing game and the Cowboys in general.
I like it. Yeah. You can pretty much do anything with Dallas in a game like this, to be honest.
I think you need a narrative here. Like you need to say this game remains close. The Giants actually keep this close, but they're scoring and therefore I'm going to the Cowboys passing game and one of the running backs. Or the Giants don't show up, the Cowboys stomp, and therefore I'm focusing on which of the Cowboys runners are efficient that I want to focus around.
Jorge with a super chat. Good to see you, man. On a small slate, would you go double stack for some teams? Happy Thanksgiving, guys. What do you mean?
Like just a big game stack is what he means. Like just kind of ignoring other games entirely and double stacking on that. And absolutely, I would, if you want to just focus on one game and then just have like a single one-off piece. We've seen that work when 2 of the games are complete scoring duds. What was it that year? Houston and Detroit had a huge game, and the only other viable player on the whole slate, I think, was like Antonio Gibson or something.
Yeah.
And if you had that combo of Lions and Texans, you were golden. You could make some mistakes and win money.
He was saying like, okay, so he clarified. He's talking like traditional double stacks, like 2 pass catchers. Yeah, that's what I was saying with the Bills, dude. You could do 3. You could do, if you're crunching lineups too, don't set your main slate. You know, if you're going into the advanced settings there on Fantasy Cruncher, don't go in and under the limits and the stacking stuff and limit, like don't limit. Well, I won't say you can't, but I'm not going to be limiting, say, to 1 wide receiver unless paired with quarterback or opposing quarterback. No, definitely not. You could definitely see Buffalo go Josh Allen, massive Bills stack, and then double run back for Detroit. No question.
Absolutely.
No question. You could see winning lineups with, a Bills stack, but then two Dallas, just remind you, it's a 3-game slate. You're going to have in a lot of lineups, two players from the same offense without their quarterback. So yeah. All right.
100% agree. And happy Thanksgiving, Jorge. Thanks for always hanging out around here.
Yeah, man. Close it out with the New England Patriots and Minnesota. Speaking of happy Thanksgiving. So we got 500 people in here right now. We're going to give back to you guys. You guys have, especially on this show, Matt, and all the strategy shows earlier in the week, sometimes you and I can go long on the we do go long every Thursday. And, people hang with us. They appreciate it. They support us. I know they do. We're doing 1 week of Stokastic plus Platinum 4. You ready for this? See, Tyler, I need a drum roll drop. Yeah, the other day you had some good. I know. I'm just telling you now. But a drum roll drop would have been nice. Stokastic plus Platinum entire week. It's a $40. That's a $40 week, right? Entire week as our thank you to you. Kind of Black Friday / hey, thanks guys. $5.
What?
$5 when you use the promo code thanks. All caps. Thanks.
That's awesome.
That's it. I'm assuming we have a link for this too, right, Tyler? So they can just use the link. $5 ownership, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, football, basketball, hockey, MMA, PGA, World Cup, all of our World Cup projections as well. The new lineup generator, which is awesome for basketball and for football. You name a sport. If there's contests out there, we have it. $5. That's it. $40 value, 90% discount. Appreciate you guys. Take advantage of it. It's over on the 28th of November. $5 for the entire week. Every sport, every tool on the site. Sounds solid, Matt.
That's our way of saying thank you, guys. We love doing this stuff, and we love making these tools, and we want them in your hands. And so, what a great way to do it. Our way of saying thank you to you. Why don't you give some thanks back and give it a shot? I think you're going to win some money too.
Me too. $5. Hey, Red Shade Games said, I hope sometime you guys make these in the podcast. Great for our long drives for fam. It is, brother. It is.
Of course.
You guys
got you.
Yeah. If you're traveling, check out our podcast network. Just type in Stokastic. I know we have a couple different ones. Do we have like a specific NFL one, Tyler? No. You can find it. It's on the site, or just go to the, Apple Podcasts or wherever it is. Spotify, we're over there on all of them. So check it out. Do we have a link that we can drop for a podcast, Tyler? Yeah, I'm not sure either. If you can find one, throw it in there. But if not, yeah, everything's on podcast, man. No doubt. But yeah, $5. $5 for everything. Appreciate you guys. Have a great Thanksgiving. Let's wrap it up with New England and Minnesota. The Patriots, 2.5-point dogs. Full disclosure, I grabbed them at 3. I think this game stays close, and I'm going to tell you my one main reason for this, Matt. The New England Patriots have a very similarly built defense to the Cowboys in the sense of, I'm not saying they have a Micah Parsons, but their pass rushes look nice. They're second in adjusted sack rate, and they are now ranked number 1 in pass defense DVOA. I'm not saying this is a 40-3 game, of course. They're dogs on the road. But I do think this defense is uniquely equipped to handle a team like Minnesota. Kirk Cousins was under pressure on 60% of dropbacks last week. That is an untenable solution if you're trying to win football games going forward. Very interested in this one. Let's actually start with the Vikings offense. Floor is yours.
Great points all around. Patriots are the team currently number 1 in Football Outsiders pass DVOA. And this is where I love using advanced metrics. We've had people in chat pushing back, just use simple metrics. But this is where stats that are variable week to week, season to season can let us down. The Patriots pass defense is 20th in yards allowed per pass attempt. But if you actually look at what they do on a play-by-play basis versus what the average team does, the average defense, they're one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. Are they one of the best teams? I'm not so sure. But I do think that, as you said, they are equipped to stop an offense in Minnesota that has started to look kind of all over the place. Look, if Justin Jefferson isn't doing incredible things on the field, it seems like they're starting to have a little bit of trouble generating offense here. They still obviously have star power in the likes of Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. I still like these players. I still am going to take chances on Cook, but I still think his salary is a little high for the matchup he has. 7,500 is a little steep. Even Jefferson, 8,400 against a good defense. You're not going to, if you're going to play 5 lineups, you're probably not going to entirely fade Jefferson, but if you only had him in one, I don't think that's insane. And even Thielen is still, because of the name brand, a little bit more expensive than his opportunities would dictate. If he were 4K straight up, I would love Adam Thielen. But at 4,900, I get why his ownership is just about 15% expectation right now. It's kind of hard to bet on these guys, but if you're playing multiple lineups, I'm going to take some shots. They obviously still have a decent chance of putting up some points.
I kind of don't mind Jacoby Myers at all in this spot. I think he's cheap enough. He's the clear number one in this. What's his ownership? Did you mention his ownership?
Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, 26%.
Yeah, that's pretty high, but
it is. It's because he's inexpensive. How about the fact that sorry, I was answering some questions in chat, so I missed some of what you said.
No worries.
Damian Harris is 5%. Ramondre Stevenson's 33%.
That's a lot, man. So the one I'll still take a chance on and be with the field on is Ramondre Stevenson, because I just think he's good. It's at the point too where even if things go awry in terms of game script for Ramondre Stevenson, like if they're down 2 scores suddenly, they'll just dump it off and dump it off and dump it off to him. He's up to running back 9 in terms of fantasy points per game this entire season. The metrics in terms of yards per touch look decent. Is number 3 in evaded tackles this season, number 12 in total breakaway runs. In expected fantasy points, he's up to RB8 overall on the season. And then if you look at his salary, certainly not too much to me. So he's by far my favorite Patriot, 6.4K. When my first run of DraftKings lineups, obviously I'll change things going into tomorrow. Ramondre Stevenson was my highest owned running back.
Wow. Okay. Randy said, I'm taking a shot on Harris only because Bill likes to be a funny guy. Maybe I'll get lucky. You know what, man? That's actually not the most insane logic I've ever heard. It is the Patriots. Ramondre fumbles on the opening drive. Boom. Damian Harris, 80% snap share in that game. You never know. But I think, Matt, we all agree that whether it's Swift or James Cook or Zeke or Harris, like one of these backup running backs, lesser part of a timeshare, one of them on Thanksgiving, as is the case every single year, is probably going to have themselves a game. You just have to make the right choice.
Easier said than done when you're trying to guess what Bill Belichick's going to do.
Oh, dude, but I get it.
I think he has a distinctly better running back on his team, and he should just do the right thing. Of course,
but that's what you think. We don't know what Bill thinks.
What was it last week? Ramondre had 22 that's target share. In opportunity share, Ramondre Stevenson had 39.5% of the team's total opportunities.
Yeah.
Damian Harris down at 19%. That's second highest on the team. That is not small.
Stevenson is clearly the better play. I'm just saying that sometimes you got to think a little bit wonky when it comes to these 3-game slates. Like if you're playing a bunch of lineups, you're going to have Damian Harris at 5%. I wouldn't mind having 10% Damian Harris in the event that he falls into the end zone twice. That's all I'm saying. I'm not excited about Damian Harris. I wouldn't even be talking about him on a main slate, but these are okay. How many guys are you going to find it at 5% that get a 19% opportunity share in a game?
I was just thinking that is when you look at the ownership, that's where he looks interesting.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Typically when you're getting up to that level of opportunity, even at a running back position, it's typically coming with a salary tag and you're going to be with a lot of the field. So in that regard, it is a decent contrarian pick. I would just say it's highly contrarian because of the player he's competing against in that same backfield. And the last thing I'll add here is when you're talking about a low volume, low pace offense like the Patriots are, and then you're talking about them having a bunch of players who command somewhere between like 3 to 10% of the opportunity share. Even on a 3-game slate, those might be players. If you're playing something like 5 to 20 lineups, you might be able to just entirely cross off. I don't really want more than a sprinkling of anyone beyond Harris, Stevenson, and Jacoby Myers. I think Jonnu Smith's a thin play. Aguilar's a thin play. And then, biggest tournaments only for Tyquan Thornton, Devontae Parker, players like that. It's really thin, especially considering the expected volume for this team in this game.
I'll definitely have some Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, though.
I think that's fair. Hunter Henry has had under 2% of the team's opportunities in 2 of his last 3 weeks.
It's gross, but there's also a very distinct possibility that Dawson Knox has 6 fantasy points and Dalton Schultz has 7, and Hawkinson doesn't get in the end zone again. So like a touchdown from one of those guys, like a 3 for 30 and a touchdown at that price could do it. Again, when we're talking about these players, it's not about being excited. It's just, are there ways to get different at really thin positions? And tight end is certainly one of them. All right, let's wrap it up with Minnesota. We got 500 people in the house, 135 likes. Appreciate you guys. Last thing, you guys already know about World Cups in action. If you're not on MGM yet, bet MGM, and you haven't signed up yet, you're getting dude, we have so many insane promos right now. You bet $10 on any pre-match money line when you use the link in the description or in chat, and you're getting $200 in free bets on the other side. Doesn't matter. They don't need to win. If they do win, you still get paid out. So I would bet a dog in a spot like that. Man, if you bet Saudi, you put the 10 on Saudi Arabia, and then you get paid out there, right? They were, I think, 7-1 to win. And then, no. I'm sorry. I think they were 20-1. I think they were.
That sounds right, more. Yeah.
I think they were plus 2,000. Yeah, that makes sense because who they play? Argentina. Argentina is minus 700. These odds are weird because you have like the win, loss, draw, and shit. It's so much different than football. Our football. You put it on, or today there was an upset. Japan just beat
Japan over Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. You're betting one. I mean, dude, at this point, take advantage of that. Put your 10. It's only $10. Doesn't have to be more. Put that on a money line dog. If they lose, you're still getting the $200 in free bets. If they win, you're getting a nice payout and the $200 in free bets. It's insane. The worst case scenario is you lose your bet, you get your 200, you lose your 200, you're down $10. Think about that. You're down $10 at the end of the day. You ain't losing sleep over that. Best case, you win your bet, $10 or more if you want. You make a nice little penny there, pretty penny there. And then you get to 200 and you're swimming in it, heading into NFL Sunday. I mean, come on. What a heck of a deal. Heck of a deal, Matt. Bet MGM, links in the description.
Laffy, right now the U.S. is plus 450 against England on Friday.
Let's go.
If you want to be a homer, support the U.S. Bet on BetMGM plus 450.
That's really fun.
Love it. Click the link, sign up if it's available in your state. Put your $10 on USA. Let's sweat this one together. You're getting the money anyway. You might just get more money if the United States wins. USA. All right, Teddy Wayman, thoughts on Mac Jones, Matt?
We've got him as the last projected quarterback in terms of ranking them. He is last in salary. It's ugly, but it's not unplayable because he's a quarterback on a small slate. It really is. When you bet on Mac Jones, you're really betting on all of the good quarterbacks, your Josh Allens, your Dak Prescotts of this slate entirely failing. I will say that if you told me Mac Jones outpaced Jared Goff and Daniel Jones, I wouldn't
I said that to Ben yesterday. It wouldn't be shocking if he finishes with 18. Yeah.
But it would be shocking if you said, and he outscored Allen and Prescott. That's the only thing I was going to add. So that's really the bet you're making when you play Mac Jones in a tournament. Not saying you can't, just saying you need everyone to fail around him as well.
Agreed. Minnesota, Kirk Cousins. This is a tough spot for old Kirk. It is. Justin Jefferson. I think Adam Thielen at 4,900 honestly might be one of my most preferred players. It's 16%, 4,900 in this game. Not to use the old, cliche, but Belichick does love to take away number ones. Not easy to do with Jefferson, but if they put a lot of attention on him, who knows? Maybe a 2-touchdown Thielen game for the first time all season. 4,900, only 16%. I have some interest there for sure.
Let's get him some more red zone touches, just opportunities at least, because right now I have to say that TJ Hawkinson, in terms of opportunity value, has gotten more work than Adam Thielen since Hawkinson has come into the fold. Not to say that Thielen couldn't have a 2-touchdown game. Don't want to totally rain on your parade there. But in terms of the opportunities, Hawkinson has turned into the number 3 here. And I don't know if that's going to hold all season long. Even in this one game sample size, I don't know. Maybe Thielen does find a way. But I do want to look at that trend line and say that Hawkinson, especially at that kind of depressed salary, I think that's viable. Obviously, a lot of people are going there. He's $5K. That's the highest salary tight end, but almost a quarter of the field is going there. In that regard, Thielen looks like the slightly better tournament play. Less likely to succeed, but if you're going to get a significant ownership discount, then I think you could go there for sure. We're still talking about long shots compared to Jefferson and Cook.
Of course. Listen, Hawkinson just needs to not drop all of his touchdown end zone targets. He had 2 awful drops. Like one was horrible. One was, I wouldn't put all of the blame on him, but probably should catch it. Yeah, look, Hawkinson's fine. He's getting a lot of opportunities. I have no problem with that. I'm just saying that Adam Thielen is very low owned. We've seen what he's done in the past, and he's cheap. If you're not getting the Jefferson in this game, I think Hawkinson and Thielen are nice pivots there. Last thing I want to ask you, and if you want to touch on Osborne or Madison, even though he's out there, he's just getting very limited opportunities. I think the problem with him is he might fall into the end zone earlier in the game and you're excited, and then he finishes with 7 fantasy points. But what are you doing with Dalvin Cook? This is a big one.
This is still a player who is in a position every single week, especially if the Vikings play in a positive game script, to dominate a slate. He could still have a 30-point game. One exercise I think everyone should do is write down, just literally on a notepad, all the players on a slate that could just dominate it, like the had to have it player. And Dalvin Cook on any slate he's on is still in that list for me. But as you said, the expected fantasy points have shriveled from where it was in previous seasons to like 20 a game down to about 13 or 14. That still puts him in the he's viable, he's playable category, but it does not put him in the superstar category. And his salary at 7,500 on this slate kind of indicates that he's there. So I think this is a tough dilemma. I still see an efficient player with the ball in his hands. And I think if you want to use Dalvin Cook in a tournament setting, it's not a bad bet, especially considering the implied totals of both these teams. Beautiful. I personally see it as a slightly overpriced player on this slate.
I don't disagree. I think I'll probably live in that lower mid-range at running back, that 5-6K range. Feels like it at least. Get up to some of these top-priced wide receivers. All right. Well, anyway, happy Thanksgiving, guys. You can find Matt at Draftaholic, me at Lafayette_D. I'll be heading over to the Odds Shopper channel, 12:30 Eastern. So 24 minutes from now, the Odds Shop, baby, breaking down from a betting perspective all of these games, well, all 3 of them for Thanksgiving with Ben Rasa, Eitan Shander. Going to be a blast. Shout out to Tyler Zander for producing this one. Have a great Thanksgiving, Tyler. Yeah.
Thank you, Luffy. You as well. And you too, Mr.
Yeah, and you
Savoca.
too. Yeah,
Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. This is genuinely, this is the happy place right here on the Marathon Matchup Show. Just so grateful to be able to be here. And let's all, as always, win some money. We'll see you Friday.
Peace.